Smart 24, driving business.
It out tomorrow, then we step back and tell you, I can't help you. Because I will test and it will fail. What are you going to do? We end up looking like we are the bad people. But the problem is already there. So as a sector, we have to start thinking about taking control ourselves from the beginning and using what is available. Ministry of Agriculture needs a lot of support, and we are there to support them. But let's use what we have now as we grow to do better. So, as has been mentioned, the Uganda'S efforts were made to make the Uganda'S. It is again based on private sector requirements, which are much higher. We can definitely go back and look at that again. But let's start where we are. And first be sure that even if I sold my product in Uganda, I would have no problem. So we are here to support, we are here to respond to any queries and to encourage everybody. Let's take ownership of the quality of what we are selling. God bless you.
Thank you, Patricia. Yeah, it is very, very interesting today, but as we proceed, we need to hear from you before we have the remarks from the Commissioner, before we have the remarks from Crop Life and others. Let us have a response from the audience on the issues raised during the Monday meeting, especially from the private sector. Thank you. Who is moving the mic? You can move it there, please.
Thank you, Mr. Balagade. Once again, my name is Emmanuel Awori from White Oak Holdings. I did not introduce what White Oak Holdings does, but we work end-to-end in the macadamia and Hass avocado value chains, and that is what we are primarily doing at the moment. So we're one of the parties in the country promoting and pushing for Uganda'S growth in the macadamia value chain as well as Hass avocado. Thank you very much for the deliberations. As I said, I'm representing the board chair of HortiFresh as well as our CEO at White Oak Holdings. And we had a fruitful meeting on Monday. But on Monday, I was more of a listener, and I think we've taken all the recommendations to heart, and I believe as HortiFresh, there's going to be a prime execution of all these. But I'd like to add one thing, and I think what Dr. Ejalo has just mentioned caught my attention. We were invited to the launch of this strategy. It's the second national strategy for private sector development. And as a member of HortiFresh, last year in December, we were invited to this. And while there, I represented again our CEO on a panel. And I remember mentioning one thing, and that one thing was, are we looking out for the trends, not just as private sector, but as a country? And we need to look out for these trends. I've seen a program piloted by TechnoServe, whereby they're trying to empower smallholder farmers to be able to use technology to be able to increase yields, to be able to monitor pesticide levels, to be able to do all these kinds of things on an easier scale. As White Oak Holdings, we're trying to pilot a program for our orchards and to monitor them digitally, to monitor fertilizer levels, to monitor how our crops are doing, how our trees are doing. And it just occurred to me that one of the stakeholders maybe that we might need to include at a later date or as soon as possible might be the Ministry of Science and Technology. Because we need to have a way that we enhance and push technology to be able to monitor these pesticide levels and the MRLs and all these things that we're talking about on our farms at an individual level, because, as Dr. Ejalo said again, we don't want to reach the exit point, and that's where interceptions are occurring. It's a loss to us as exporters, it's a loss to our farmers, and there's losses all across the value chain as you go down the line. So I think technology is going to be a very big factor. I think that maybe we might need to highlight as well and add to this. And I hope we can work, maybe you can push more with the likes of TechnoServe, who are already piloting some drone programs and things like that. Maybe it will be discussed deeper at another level. But I hope that we can add technology and really, really use technology to be able to enhance all the the initiatives that we're trying to put across and all the interventions to be able to curb these interceptions as a subsector of horticulture. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope I will survive because he is representing my boss, the chairperson. That point is well taken, and technology is key. Just before we proceed, I just want to remind you one thing, that in the house here, we also have Swiss Contact, which is trying to set up to support us with technology on traceability and etc. Also, one simple story, which I'm not talking so. Israel has been so successful in agriculture because of technology. You go and read about Israel and technology in agriculture. They have been so successful because of, and most of the countries in Europe now, they are successful because they are using technology. But next, take the mic to my brother there, Mr. Naturinda. He tell us more, please. Secretariat, have you taken note of that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Incidentally, I have not stood up to speak about Swiss Contact. I had my own point to put forward. I have Martina here. Maybe she will speak about Swiss Contact because she manages a project that is related to this. But I just wanted to give some complementary, I think, your element you might have to have in that, and it's also related to what the previous speaker was talking about to do with technology. I think the issue of data is crucially important for the entire sector. You know, when Dr. Caroline and Louis were speaking about interceptions, you know, they could comfortably and with ease tell us, you know, 15 interceptions, 20 interceptions, so on and so forth. I think we also need to do it internally, you know, a whole range of data right at every level of the value chain. If it's at the pack house, what is happening, you know, how much is being, for example, rejected, you know, that has come from farmers, how much is what inspectors are rejecting and not allowing to proceed for export. The importance of that is that it will start giving each and everyone in the value chain what they are losing as a result of this. And then it helps everyone think more about, you know, what level of compliance, what do I need to do, so on and so forth. So I think for me, it's an important element. In most cases, people look at data for the public sector, but also for the private sector, it's very crucial that we're able to see at our own level what exactly is happening immediately. So part of the work we are doing with Ministry of Agriculture will involve those elements to do with, you know, showing levels of wastages at every level, rejections at every level, before we reach interceptions from, you know, the market destinations. So I think for me that's an important element I feel you should include in the recommendations. How much can we work with the private sector to improve data levels, you know, proper dashboards, which can show us even alerts before we go into the marketplaces, so on and so forth. That's the point I wanted to add. Maybe, Martina, you want to say anything about Swiss Contact? Well, not necessarily for this forum. We don't want to take the floor for many others, but we have a number of interventions we've been doing with Ministry of Agriculture, and around the 12th, we'll be having a broader workshop to present some of these, so we'll be happy to invite everyone and then see how we can take this forward together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben, to re-emphasize that issue of data collection, data analysis, and interpretation. I think even all the standards we have require traceability, and traceability is based on data, and so that we can minimize. It can also inform us if something has been intercepted because of harmful organism. Can it be eaten locally? I sometimes say a harmful organism. If you have hot pepper, you know hot pepper as it is fresh, and it has the FCM, it cannot go to the water market. But the moment you convert it into pulp, and you have disabled the eggs and whatever, then it can go as what? Provided your levels of chemicals in it, the preservative, meet the EU requirements. So let us proceed. Thank you. Secretariat, please take note of that point.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have a concern. When you make an observation on what is happening to our country right now, you realize that the interceptions are coming many because of the frequency, the rate at which we are also sampled. As you know, our country is at 50%. Most of our clients in the EU are afraid of ordering our products because of the expenses of the laboratory tests. Every 2 consignments, 1 goes to the lab. Sometimes both of them, depending on the situation. So it is quite threatening. Our concern is also about the traceability model. Why is it that until now we have talked about traceability? People have invested in technology, into digital platforms, and many approaches of doing this traceability. But it looks like they are fruitless, meaning when our products get to the EU, they do what we call a blanket destruction. When they find anything, like doctor said, an egg as the microscope brings out a small microscopic egg, and then they destroy their 1,000 boxes. It looks like it is being a little bit inhuman to a businessman. Maybe I will not blame the person destroying, but I would think that as a nation we should fight so that we are ahead, or as a bloc, maybe the ESC, whatever, we should fight as a group that we are ahead and be respected. This traceability, what is it going to help out there when every box is destroyed of a lot? So maybe to deduce on the sampling, the 50%, we should have a strategy. But my point here again is that as a country, we should up our standards. We should up a brand, a presentation, kind of. Uganda should be put at a level where the brand of Uganda is respected. I've talked about this before, about our publicity, about our reporting of the activities that we do. Maif is very busy from January to January doing a lot of stuff, helping us. We are fighting together, but who knows about this? Are they reporting? Is it documented? Is it brochured? I mean, we need to see catalogs. We need to see digital platforms where people can see all what is happening instantly. Probably we are not talking about ourselves, and people think we are just, we're waiting for one big document in 1 year when the businessmen have lost billions of shillings across the month. I was even thinking maybe some of these losses should go to government, because honestly, we cannot shoulder everything. We should negotiate so that some of these losses should go to government. I will talk about some SOPs. I may not be very accurate, but when I discuss with some of my clients for instance, the Netherlands, they will tell you that they may require 13 tests from every importer or an exporter across the year. As one of the standard of reporting, when you're presenting your supplier declaration reports or quality control reports, you are now submitting, you are reporting, you are now defending that you are actually undertaking all measures to safeguard the life of your customers. I don't know whether Uganda is also setting up a standard. If the EU can require 13 tests of a customer, of somebody who imports from several nations, why shouldn't we also set a standard and we say now, all exporters of Uganda should have, we have set as an NPPO, we have actually set probably 5 tests for every exporter for a year. And then times how many exporters? if these tests are a part of the NPPO report in their reports they submit to the EU, I think can be a tremendous improvement. It seems we may not be having a proper standard. According to the interest that our NPPO requires right now, they are interested in us testing, just testing anyhow, like testing so many tests. They don't even have a specific direction how these tests should be done. They are very, very expensive. I have a quotation from EU. It's even cheaper to test from the EU than test from here. I've actually talked to some of my clients to test from the other side than testing from here. It's cheaper. So if we should look at the standards so that our exporters can afford this. Secondly, this is an important note that I want to make. As exporters, we all know that the profitability of the fruits and fresh vegetables business in Uganda is very low. So however much we dream of very, very important things to do, we want to test, we want to implement this, without money, without increasing our profitability, it is impossible. You are just going to kill the businesses. This is not going to be possible. To test, it is not going to be possible. It is honestly not going to be, because there's no money. The money is not there. I already gave a note on the rate of profit of 1 ton of capsicum in this country. I already gave you a rate. A London rate of profitability of 1 ton is very, very little. It's even not. It can't even afford a test. So I don't know where they're going to get the money to test. How are we going to improve on the profitability? Probably we should also protect our business people by. I remember Balagade speaking about our country, Kenya, our neighbors having some representation in one of the airports in the UK where they have some cold rooms. But the purpose of those cold rooms is not necessarily to just provide cold room facilities. It is to safeguard the businessmen from the losses they are incurring in the UK market. Can we also pick maybe 3 entry points? Maybe Heathrow, maybe Brussels, maybe Frankfurt, could be LGG, and then we partner. We have a partnership of Hot Fresh with government and the EU, and then we have also representations. May not be fully-fledged cold rooms, but representations that we can mount our products getting into this country. Most of the losses we are making, you get an egg has been caught, then the client will appeal. Sometimes you pass after an appeal. Sometimes they tell the client, for every appeal you make 600 euros. It is quite funny. But we believe that we cannot fight on our own because we are not technical enough to reason with these people. We believe that we have the technical experts as our NPPO to help us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Henry. That has, Michael. That has been. You have raised a number of issues. I beg, ladies and gentlemen, that before we move on, let us try to answer before we forget what he has said. But most of these answers will come from the NPPO. But before the NPPO comes on, I note that you mentioned that currently the 50% inspection requirement is costly for every consignment of capsicum coming from Uganda. It renders our consignments uncompetitive. I note that you say the traceability model is not effective. And I would like to emphasize here that traceability models all along need to emphasize the systems approach, so that you reduce on the inspection and inspection product, but NPPO will tell us. You have emphasized the issue of branding. You have talked about the documentation. You have talked about the need for government to share with the exporters the losses being incurred. You have spoken about the SOPs. Whereby we need to emphasize, and people should emphasize that to exporters on the number of tests they should do, and make sure that these costs are cheaper, because you mentioned that cost of testing is very high. Then you mentioned a very important issue of profitability is low, which I think is not a problem of government, which I earlier said that we need to work very hard to move away from the ethnic markets, which means that we have to get certifications that require us to go to those other bigger markets. And the most widely approved certification is a private standard called the Global Gap, and also others like BRS and the Tropical Forest Rainforest Alliance, and etc. So in the Europe, I think the consumer movement has been very strong to demand for higher standards for safety. So if we are to really benefit from a higher end market, we need to take advantage of some of, and we said that we need to start with maybe Yuga Gap, or local gap, whatever, to promote that culture of quality, get our local certification, and then for those who are ready for Global Gap, we take them straight away to Global Gap. I know people in this room are interested in Global Gap. I know one of our members there, the exporter of herbs, is eagerly waiting for Global Gap, so that he can get better. You are not in the Global Gap? Hey, sorry, he already has. You see, he already has, because he wanted better what? Markets. I'm sorry, he already has the Global Gap, so those are some, but before, these are very critical issues you have mentioned, and I think in them, there are some solutions to interceptions, which is our main topic today. And before we forget, I would like to request, ladies and gentlemen, that I hand over the mic to Commissioner to decide who will say something, respond to this, and then we proceed with more question and answer. This session is very critical. I guarantee you that we shall finish before time for lunch. We shall be in time for lunch. So don't despair. Just keep alert. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether I understand the terms of reference very well. What would you like me to do, Sam?
Yes.
What would you like me to do? To make my remarks or to...
Not your remarks.
Yes.
Just respond to him. Your remarks will come at the end when you have heard from all. Then they will come towards the end. Yes.
Okay.
Now to address Michael's issues, the issue raised by Michael, either
okay.
You or Dr. Nachinga.
Okay. I think I will make a few, because some of them are already covered in my remarks.
Okay.
But thank you very much for the opportunity. And good afternoon, colleagues. Well, mine will be on the increased interceptions. Why the increased interceptions? What can we do? The single biggest thing to understand this whole thing is to know, like Patricia from UNBS said, she summarized it well. Quality cannot be made at the exit point, cannot be changed.
Smart 24, driving business. Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest. Smart 24, driving business.
you must know who is growing these products for you. And there must be some engagement. The challenge we are having is that there are many of the exporters who because of various difficulties they have gone through, they end up having aggregators who pick these things without any formal engagement on what should be done before the product is picked from them. Now, for harmful organisms, we can increase on our inspection regimes and perhaps single out the pest. But for the maximum residue levels, once the chemical has been sprayed and you have not observed the pre-harvest interval, this is not very easy to detect. The tests are very expensive. So what we would rather do is to engage our growers to know which chemical to use and when to harvest after the last harvest. I think that would help us a lot to avoid the high costs incurred by the exporters. And I think it would also save the image of the country. I will give more details in my remarks. Let me give my Assistant Commissioner to fill the gaps.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much. In fact, my commissioner has already said it, but I wanted also to remind the exporters that came to the NPPO on February 7th that most of the things that Tropical Dynasty has aired were the basis of our discussion. In fact, I was expecting that on the Monday meeting, you deliberated on those things, but I didn't see it in the presentation. But I'll go back to address some of them, because some of these things that he has been talking, we addressed them on 7th. The issues of the business not being profitable, that they cannot afford to test with Chemifa, maybe we have to look for other measures on how we have to test. Those are the things we discussed, not so, Betty? If it was not discussed on Monday, yet when we set them out on 7th, that's the very thing we requested. If you find the business is not profitable, probably in the wrong place. We might be doing a wrong business. If it's not a wrong business and you think there are other proposals we can do for testing, then you propose them. And we set them out to go and discuss exactly that. I was expecting to see that in the presentation. If it was not, then I can go back and give another narrative. When Lois was presenting his presentation, he mentioned something on TAEX. TAEX is an EU body that has been helping us to build capacity on how we can handle MRS. When I was giving my remarks, I told you the escalation has been due to MRS and some harmful organisms. Just between January and now, we have received about 14 interceptions. What is going to happen by the mid of the year? Some of these interceptions are due to pesticides, others are due to harmful organisms, like that. Like if we are now in March, we are in 13 or 14, what is going to happen by the mid of the year? And that's what we told the exporters that came on February 7th, that we are badly off. If we don't do emergency measures, we are going to be in shit by the mid of the year. That's what we told them. And we told them we need emergency measures. Yes, we understand government has to support you, government has to make dialogue with the EU, but what should we do now? What should we do now to stop what we are seeing? By the mid of the year, it will be 70 interceptions. So we wanted emergency measures. Whatever has been reported here is long term. What should we do now to arrest the situation? Right now, Commissioner has just given me one. One is fruit borer. in garden egg, another one is cypermethrin, another one is on fruit flies. You are talking about FCM, but you have so many harmful organisms out there, about 7 of them. We are being intercepted for FCM, fruit fly, Lusnodid, so many of these things that I am not going to mention here. And what my commissioner has said, if we don't handle these harmful organisms at production place, we cannot manage them at the pack house, we cannot manage them at the exit. So I go back to all my commissioner. These harmful organisms, there are about 7 of them. If I start talking about them, you are going to start biting your tongues, which I don't want you to bite. You know, on the FCM, there are so many others. And we are being intercepted. The interception I've just received now, which is the 14th, has Lusnodis, has fruit flies, has cypermethrin. So what should we do now? Long term is fine, but what should we do now to stop whatever we are seeing? In fact, every time an interception comes, I also get heart pressure. I even get breakdown. Now another one has just come, and I'm in this meeting. We are always having all these pressures around us. What should we do now? The presentation you have given is very good. That is long term. I want what we should do now. And what my friend has just given was what we wanted you to go and tell us. TIEX has been supporting us since 2021 to prepare us for what is coming now. They told us, if there is no law for you to regulate MRAs, better work it out. So in 2021, 2022, they've been taking us through a lot of training to develop these regulations, and which we are doing as an NPPO. One of the things they required us, preparing us for legislation 2019, 17 something, which I showed you what is this legislation. Whatever it is, it's 2019 something. 2019/1793. That legislation, they prepared us in 2020, 2021, that this legislation is coming and you'll be required to test. So the better thing to do is prepare your stakeholders to make sure that they start testing now. One of the things they required us, can you provide us data to show that you're doing this testing? And probably your gardens are free, and if they're not free, we can advise you on what to do. Unless if we provide this data, there is no way we are going to talk. These people don't understand Lugambo. They understand science, documentary evidence that whatever you've been testing on the farms using a systems approach is able to mitigate these MRS. So when I came in Hotel Africana, I presented on this legislation and the implications. Those are some of the implications I indicated to you. It's going to be more costly for us as any people and also for the private sector. So I requested, can we now start testing ourselves? Let's understand what we have. Let's understand so that if we have this data, using our systems approach, which we submitted to the EU, we told them we are even monitoring the pesticides. We are even recommending the right pesticides and monitoring how they work. So we need this information to show that our systems approach, where we are teaching you what to do, when we test our gardens, they don't have these pesticide residues. And I requested in January 2022 that let's work together. The NPPO developed the protocol, the NPO proposed standard operating procedures to work with you. We get the data. If by December 2022 I had this data, I would have provided it. And I tell you people, according to our systems approach, we don't have these pesticide residues. So can you lift? They could even lift us from 50% and maybe it takes us a 10%. But we didn't have the data. So on 7th February, I told the exporters, if we had this data, I would have documentary evidence to go and present my case, or my commissioner to go and present a case. But now we don't have this data. So they told us, it's very, very expensive, we cannot collect it. Until we have this data, we have no case to present. It is science, It is evidence-based, and it's what we have to use to talk to these guys, either to reduce from 50 to 70, and that's what they've been requesting us. And continuously, I even told them on 7th February that these people under the systems approach, we are required to give codes of the farmers that are exporting these materials to the EU. So the traceability system has to work because it is within the dossier that we present it to the EU. And we have to comply. If we don't comply, then they will even tell us, you're not doing anything here. I told them on 7th that it's a requirement that we follow traceability. It's a requirement that we know the code of that farmer, and we present even these codes earlier before you export. So, my friend, we have to follow the traceability. We have no choice because we've already committed ourselves and agreed we are going to comply. Traceability is the key component in the systems approach dossier that we presented for capsicum. There is no way. So if, like my commissioner has said, we know who is this farmer, what is this code, what has the farmer done to even produce this capsicum? Is he using the systems approach that we submitted? Is he following, even before you plant, doing the good agronomic practices? And are these agronomic practices and integrated pest management for your FCM and other organisms good enough to reduce on the harmful organisms and also reduce the pesticide residues? Then we can present it there and they can listen. Right now they cannot listen. However language, whichever language we shall use, they will not. They require us to provide the data, which we don't have. So, if only I can repeat again, please accept to work with us to provide this data. We don't have it. One time, Commissioner told me, but maybe, Caroline, maybe we're not supposed to be exporting capsicums because the market requirements are too stringent for us. They're too stringent. Then I told him, maybe let's continue talking to these people. Maybe they will accept. But at the end of the day, if it fails and we don't have these emergent measures through you, Commissioner, we might be forced to say, let's rest a bit. Because right now, I'm even panicking. I've just received another one here. If we find we cannot do anything, I even told you in Feb that if we find that we cannot mitigate ourselves, we shall do what we did in 2019. Self-ban, rest a bit, sort our house, and then go back. Otherwise, where we are going, we shall even lose the market if we depend on the long term. These words are not very good, but I feel I should tell you. Yes, traceability, there's no choice. There's no choice. I think I need to come here again and give a presentation on that dossier of traceability. EU is hailing us. In fact, they're using us as models to show how we develop this traceability system for other countries to copy. Now, if you are the ones who are being used as models and then you tell me you cannot comply, I get scared. It's a very nice dossier. I've presented it a number of times. I have to repeat it and present to give you the components that this dossier has and what you have to comply with. MRAs, what should we do? Another one has just come now. I don't want to tell you the exporters company. It has come. And on 7th, I even told you some of the resolutions we made were, one, if a company is intercepted for MRAs or whatever, we are going to increase the number of inspectors that are going to inspect you and increase the inspection to 100%. Those are the resolutions, which they did not discuss on Monday. So if we increase your inspection to 100%, and other than having one inspector, we increase 2 or 3, it means what it means in your pockets. So we need measures now. Today, long term will come, but we need measures now. What do we do? I don't know whether this forum is good enough, but that's the issue.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Nanchinga. We are here. You have actually generated a lot of, but before we proceed, you'll get a chance. We'll give you a chance. We agreed in the beginning that we move out of this room today by one with 100% solution to interceptions, but not less than 50%. And that came from Mr. Kasoma Henry here. We agreed. So you have given us a very good picture of where we are. But before we proceed, I would like to recognize the presence in this room of Chief of Party, Mr. Anthony Nyungu, and the Deputy Chief of Party. May I kindly request you to move in front a bit from USID? I saw you coming in, but you are very important for us today. People need to know you, those who don't know you. Yes. You can take over the seat for Christabel. It is there. There is also your colleague. Your colleague also. She's staying. Please. Yes. Yes. Before we proceed, Mr. Zake, we have quite a number of hands, but what is very crucial here, we shall select 2 talks. But I would like to propose that we adopt the report of February 7th, 2023. If that is acceptable, I did not attend that meeting. I don't know whether you attended. Can we adopt it so that we can have those resolutions taken care of? Is it agreeable? Do we have the report, Dr. Nanchinga? We have no idea about it. So we did not, yesterday, we did not have an idea, but can we adopt it? Can we have it? No, what we have heard is from that report. Because now, one of the things which is coming out is we need immediate, we don't need to look at the medium term and long term, but we need immediate, how to solve it immediately. So if members agree, please.
I want to add, on 7th, we sent them out to find immediate measures on MRAs as one and interceptions, to go and discuss among yourselves. I can supply, but that's what we said, not so PAI. And in fact, when we came here, that's what we were expecting to find.
Thank you, Dr. Nanchinga. That is exactly what we are trying to resolve, so that by the time we get out of here, we have got a solution. We don't want to suffer that impact of self-ban. From my previous experience, I know what self-ban means. So let us proceed with the discussions. Patricia, take the mic to Madame Patricia Bagene. Yeah, we shall start from behind and come in front.
Thank you very much. Just a very quick one. I realize there are many comments that need to be said. And thank you very much, Dr. Caroline, and the Commissioner. It's good to be with you, as always. We seem to be together a lot these days. Members, on what can be done. Part of what is being asked is for government to fight for the private sector. Please listen to what is being told to you. We cannot defend you at that stage if we are not knowledgeable about what we are doing here. World Trade Organization requires us to, at the very least, meet the international standards. This is why I was making it very clear. Part of the NPPO requirements is for us to prove that we are doing what is required of us out there. And that's part of what we facilitate. Let me give a very basic example. When it comes to just the EAC, we have a mutual agreement at the EAC. If you have the quality marks, nobody is going to check you. They will just monitor. How do you get that quality mark? We cannot give you the Q mark if you are a milk producer, if you have not done everything that DDA requires you to do from the beginning. We top up on what DDA is doing. We have records of all the products and the testing that is needed. If an issue arises about milk, and you can quote me here, all the issues you have had about milk in the EAC, it's not about the quality, because we have the records. We have everything, and we can defend. The issues about milk are protectionism issues. Other things, it is not the quality. So if we are going to go and defend you at the WTO as government of Uganda, what are we taking there? You are telling us testing is expensive, but you are referring to only one lab. Have you looked at what is available here? We don't have any record of testing pesticide residues. We are the national lab that can test. What can I say? When I say it starts with you here, it is because in your process, when you are following the requirements of the standard, you are required to test on a regular basis. Now, when you start keeping those records, those are the records that we use to defend you. We have even recognized other labs. It's not just UNBS. Members, let's do our homework here. The options are available. One thing you cannot change is the standard. The standard you must meet, whether you are small, medium, large, red, blue, yellow, you must meet the standard. If it is becoming difficult for individuals, private sector, you have to come together. Government has done what is needed to provide the environment for you to exist. We cannot now come and say you and you come together. Members, the testing is available here. The certifications for all government institutions are available here. It means you have to do what is needed. To get that certification, you have to prove to us that you can trace. Before you now go and defend that we have the traceability record. So members, please, let us use what is available here. Let us start certifying what we have here. We cannot certify any coffee product until UCDA has done what is needed. UCDA tests the product. We do the final test before coffee goes to places like Sudan. We have joint certification. We defend Ugandan coffee. We had to do that in Sudan the other day to maintain that business. Why did we do it? We had all the records. And we went together, UCDA, UNBS, it was a Ugandan Ministry of Trade, Ugandan group that went to defend. Why? We had all the records. So, members, we have to move together.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I think our private sector partners have known. I'll give you a chance. But what is critical here, we as private sector, we agree, maybe my colleague will say so, and my colleagues, we agree that it is a requirement in order to collect data, and that data should be collected by doing testing, but we don't have the money. We need to sit together very quickly and know how we can get the money, get the testing done, implement self-regulation. That is what we have to do. We are not going to give up because we need the business. We don't have salaries. We depend on our own what? We don't have this, so we have to fight. I'll call upon my colleagues that one of the resolutions today is to see how we can implement the resolutions of February 7th. One of them is how are we going to collect the data with support from MAIF? How are we going to ensure traceability? How are we going to ensure that testing is done? It may not be our own money. It may be some money got from somewhere to ensure that the testing is done and the reports are provided to the EU so that we can move away from the 50% to make our systems viable. Because if we lose white eggplant, then what shall we export? You know, Uganda exports the most delicious white eggplants. So the solution is ours. We promote self-regulation, and then we see how we. That's why I asked, should we adopt the report of February 7th, and then we move on. As we conclude, we should come out with the key recommendations of immediate actions to be done. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very exciting discussion. I would like to give as more people opportunity to talk. We start from the back. But Mr. Kadere, yes, give it to Mr. Kadere there. It will come to you, Mr. Zake. It will come here, my brother.
Thank you, Mr. Baragadi. My name, once again, I'm Kadere Dennis. I work with Go Green as an agronomist. One of the discussants mentioned about coffee, and they are doing very well. And they are both part of the NPPO. I just wanted to pose a question to the NPPO. what is that which is so special, which is being done by Coffee and Dairy, which cannot be transferred this side to the FFV? I think we just transfer, they are doing the other side and we do, and bring it this side and we have the game moving. Because if I may give one scenario, last season I took my coffee to the milling machine, and when this guy is observed, it was not dry to the extent they wanted. They told him, please don't create us problems. You take back your coffee, you dry to the sufficient moisture content, then you bring it back. But now, which scenario do we have with our side, this side of the fresh fruits and vegetables? Here, sorry to mention, but we have exporters who have phone numbers from the State House. They call in the State House. If you refuse their products to go, they will call there, and their products will have to go. So, all those scenarios, our inspectors are facing them. They also fear to intercept somebody's products. But maybe that one will be a discussion for another time. But I'm just requesting that, as tough as those USDA guys are tough, I think we should employ the same toughness this side. I think that one shall move. My senior, Mr. Michael Wino, talked about the business being not profitable. I think in all the value chains, we shall always find those who are making profits and those who are not making profits. I think we just need to benchmark from our colleagues who are making it. We have a good example of our colleagues, the Indians. I think there is a way they are tweaking out the business, and I think it is working out for them. I think we just need to find a way how we can benchmark from them. So, and I would conclude by asking Mr. Baragat that please, as Dr. Nanching has said that she has just received another interception which could be to MRLs, please make it a point for our colleague here from Crop Life to present something for us. Because we end up having interceptions because of fake products. We want him to differentiate for us. As an association, how are they fighting these fake products on the market? Things of the sort, please. I beg you.
Thank you very much. Crop Life is slated for a presentation, some remarks, and there is a security personnel at the entrance there, not to allow him escape before he has talked. Let us receive more. Crop Life, please get ready. Can we now give a chance to a lady first? Ladies first, then we give to the gentlemen. We have 3 ladies. Bring the mic in front here. Take it to the Vice President, Madam Grace Akulo, and then, take it, you have the Vice President first. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Vice President in Amid Stars. If you ask her names, she will tell you. Repeat your names, madam.
Thank you very much. I received the blessing. I believe it will come. My name is Grace Alupo, and I'm from Indigenous Farmers. I think I would like to really appreciate the efforts in the House and where we have come from. There's been a lot that has happened in the sector, and we cannot take that for granted. We just have to appreciate that we have started from somewhere and we are going somewhere. And listening to our commissioner and also assistant commissioner, a lot of critical issues have been raised. And one of them that really touched me is the